How are you?
I would go for that.
Lovely to see you. Pleasure. See you. Take one off there. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I greet you with the Islamic greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May peace and blessing of Almighty God be upon you all. What happened in Charlottesville was totally wrong. The right-wing rallies and the white supremacist protests, these things happened centuries ago, in barbaric ages, in dark days of humanity, but not in today's world. In a civilized world, there is no place for supremacy. White has no supremacy over black, and the black has no supremacy over the white. All are equals in the eyes of God and the eyes of man. We are all human beings. My brothers and sisters, we are all members of one human race. There is no other race. This is the true message of all faith and religions. Therefore, we all are brothers and sisters in humanity and members of one global family, need to live in peace with each other, regardless of faith, culture, or background. My brothers and sisters in humanity, anti-Semitism is wrong. Islamophobia is wrong. Racism and bigotry are wrong. We should all unite against these kind of divisions. We need to unite against any ideologies that divide us. As you know, an evil man in Charlottesville, an evil man drove a car into the peaceful protesters who stood in Charlottesville against the neo-Nazi mobs, killed and injured many. This was an act of terrorism. We need to call it what it is, terrorism. But the man was not convicted as a terrorist or a murderer, but charged with the second degree of whatsoever. We must stand up for justice. We must stand up against hatred. We must stand up for unity and brotherhood. I pray to Almighty God to bring peace and compassion to our hearts, to our homes, to our cities, and around the world. I pray for the time that all arms are exchanged with flowers and foods. I pray to see a day when no one hears sounds of gunfire and no one is threatened with nuclear war. I pray for a day that no one be homeless, hungry, or grieved. And I pray for a time when one truly can say, humanity cares. God bless you all. Let's unite it, and thank you for listening.
I'm Jewish, but I'm not a very good Jew. I don't go to
She's a
synagogue. I'm a good person, but I don't go to synagogue. And I sometimes forget. I don't always remember to celebrate all the holidays. And being Jewish is definitely part of my identity, but it's not the top of the list, I would say. But it's events like these, the things I see, people walking with swastikas and quoting Adolf Hitler, that make me want to go and look for my little kind of Star of David necklace that I had as a child, which is somewhere buried in my parents' house. And I'm angry that they're forcing me into an identity that I embrace because it is part of my identity. But they're kind of forcing me to be something, to reorganize how I see the world. And I've decided to take that anger, take this kind of identity thrown at me to a certain extent, and use that as a bridge to connect with other people who are forced into these identities. With my, I'm forging bridges with my Muslim brothers and sisters, with people who are targeted because of disabilities, people of color who are considered othered because of their different color, LGBT community. I think this is events like these show that where we're strong is by making these connections, and I choose to take this identity that's thrown on me and use this as a power to fight back. And I think this gathering shows that we all have that in mind. Now, I'll just end, because we said we'll do some readings, and I'll end with a very short reading. I think it's something that probably most, if not all of you, would recognize. There are various different versions of this. It's Pastor Niemöller, who said it many times over the years, and therefore there are different versions. They're all kind of authentic. So this is the one that I've always had on my Facebook page for quite a long time. It's, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So I think we're proving that we're not going to sit silently by, and we are speaking out for every one of us, and we'll continue to hear other people speaking as well. Thank you.
We do have a serious problem that here is the president of the most powerful nation in the free world, who is, by omitting to demand and condemn what's wrong, showing which side he is on. But I'm afraid he is not unique. He is not where he is on his own. The struggle for finding peace, unity, equality for all of us is historical. And just as we're here, many have stood against bigotry in the past. So my thoughts reflecting on that were that, well, we are all equal and precious in our own diversity. And when we see news like Charlottesville, many of us, minorities, are not surprised. It's sad that we are not even shocked. But it is always painful, every time. Overt racism is visible, it's tangible, it gets in your skin, it's uncomfortable. But it hurts minorities just as much as everyday, quiet, systemic racism. A loud horror like Charlottesville grows from something widespread, quietly accepted by a lot of us. We have our reasons why we accept these things. Often we are not aware. Sometimes we are aware, but we feel powerless. And in the face of, if you like, media power, economic struggle, the daily difficulties of holding a job, having a family, we sometimes haven't got that time for connecting with one another and seeing what we have in common. So to deal with that constant human division, the little things as well as the big things that set us apart sometimes, it feels to me that we have to take a preventive attitude to violence rather than a reactive one. And how do we prevent hate and division? How do we do that? If we reflect for a moment that historically, violence and division is never a coincidence. It's always something that others will cash into. It's much for the benefits of let's not use the word enemy, but let's use a common adversary, and that would be the elites. Often we blame the neighbor, the person of color, the atheist, somebody from the LGBT community, anybody who looks different, that we don't know much about each other, and we're afraid of what we don't know. It's easy to blame that and scapegoat people. But how convenient that is for a small minority who would benefit from us to be controlled this way and set us against each other. So for me, divisive hatred is always that research, that thing that comes in austerity, crisis, wars, all that stuff. And for me, today we stand to say that we are united and that we are not going to respond to those events, and more will come, sadly. I know we are outraged, but more is coming, and the way we are going to face it. And I know it might sound soapy, but the only and better way is not to be like the people who hate, and to love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rina. These are such important points, and we need to remember and reflect on these words.
The body is the first story, our text of first meeting. I see you, you see me, skin, bone, eyes, hair. Assumptions pour forth like the rip in a dam. See the 1,000 imprints of sex, nation, money, clues to the familiar and the exotic. We read in an eye blink of time. Democracy is an order of equality and non-discrimination. What was seen in Charlottesville represented none of those principles. We stand here in Oxford, in our city, presenting a community which stands for those values: democracy, social justice, and equality. We stand here to send a message across the world to say, those are the values that unite us. We instead look to the future and see how we as a vibrant city can work together, united by our diversity, not divided by it. The voices of disabled people across the globe, particularly during the era of austerity economics, have been ignored, have been sidelined, have been forgotten. Part of the protest that happened in Charlottesville was to ensure that those voices were heard. So we speak here for those people, to ensure that there are amongst all of us allies, helping everyone to walk forward, to be part of our communities together, so that those people are not silenced, so that they have a place in our society to participate freely, openly, and with a joy for what it is for our collective humanity to be represented in all our communities. Do not forget those voices. So I would like you all to remember them today on this important moment in thinking about who we are, what we see our city as being and standing up for. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Love wins! Love wins! Love!